The night you finally hear silence for what it truly is, not the absence of sound but the presence of truth, is the night your life splits into a before and after. Most people never get there. Most people fear silence. They run from it. They fill it with noise, with distractions, with lovers they don't understand, with bodies they touch but souls they never reach. But you, right now, listening to this, you are different. You stopped scrolling for a reason. You felt something pull you in. That pull was the voice of something deep in you asking one question. The question most never dare to confront. The question that can make or break your heart, your life, your relationships, your mind. The question is this: why does it hurt so much to love someone when love itself is supposed to heal? And I can tell you now, the answer is not found in romance novels, not in poems, not in Hollywood scenes. It's found in yourself, found in discipline, found in restraint, found in stoicism, found in the art of staying calm, even when desire whispers, even when loneliness knocks, even when a woman's eyes pull you in like gravity, even when a man's silence makes her crave the unsaid. Words more than the spoken ones. Stoicism is not coldness. Stoicism is control. It's strength wrapped in calm, the ability to feel deeply without losing yourself, the ability to love without begging, the ability to let someone close to your body without letting them own your mind, the ability to kiss without collapsing, the ability to walk away without hatred, the ability to want without melting. That is the power most relationships lack today. This generation touches quickly, bonds slowly, breaks easily. They fall fast, detach faster. They crave intensity, but they can't handle truth. They blame love when the wound was always expectation. They blame hearts when the failure was ego. They blame desire when the weakness was identity. But we, the Stoics, we trace every emotion to its root. We don't fear storms, we study them. We don't drown in passion, we navigate it. We don't chase love. We embody value and let love approach respectfully. You see, when a man stands silent, truly silent, not angrily quiet, not weakly mute, but peacefully composed, a woman doesn't leave. She leans in, wondering what lives inside the calm fortress, wondering what kind of fire burns without smoke, wondering what kind of passion can be held like a steady flame rather than exploding like gasoline. And when a woman carries mystery without manipulation, when she doesn't hand her soul over at the first touch, when her presence is gentle but her boundaries loud, a man doesn't lose interest. He grows curious. He begins to respect. He begins to desire not just the moment, but the depth. That is suspense. That is intimacy mixed with discipline, the touch of a hand that means something, the heartbeat that stays controlled even when bodies come close, the moment when eye contact says more than speech ever could, the emotional tension between I want you and I don't need you to survive. That tension is magnetic. That is what makes a connection unforgettable, because neediness kills suspense, desperation destroys desire. Security breeds boredom, but calm self-possession, that breeds wonder. The ancient Stoics taught us that the strongest person is not the one who feels nothing, but the one who feels everything and still stands unshaken. A man who can be near a woman's warmth without becoming a weak shadow. A woman who can receive affection without being consumed by it. Two people who can merge in presence without dissolving in identity. That is a Stoic relationship. And that is the kind of story America is hungry for right now. People think Stoicism means detachment from love. No, Stoicism means detachment from suffering through love. We don't avoid relationships. we avoid losing ourselves inside them. We don't avoid intimacy, we avoid dependency. We don't avoid attraction, we avoid irrational destruction driven by it. We don't suppress emotion. We refuse to be ruled by it, and this is why relationships crumble today. One partner clings, the other runs. One partner wants control, the other wants escape. One speaks too much, the other explains too little. One demands feelings constantly, the other shuts down permanently. Stoicism sits right in the middle like a perfect balance beam. It tells you, love, but don't lose, care, but don't break, feel, but don't collapse, attach, but not blindly, touch, but not impulsively, commit, but not out of fear, desire, but not destructively. You see, the Stoic man is steady. He doesn't brag about strength. He exhibits it without announcement. He can look into a woman's eyes that shimmer with longing and remain composed, not because he doesn't want, but because he owns the wanting rather than the wanting owning him. He doesn't beg for attention. He carries a presence that earns it. His silence is not empty. His silence is strategic. His silence is strength. Women today are tired of loud boys who make promises their character can't cash. Tired of constant talk and inconsistent action. Tired of men who want intimacy but fear loyalty. Men today are tired of emotional games disguised as love. Tired of affection used as control. Tired of vulnerability weaponized against them. What this audience, especially in the USA, especially right now, especially on YouTube, is craving is authenticity. Depth, compassion, silent strength, eye-level connection, love that inspires instead of draining, suspense that builds instead of manipulating, intimacy that grows roots instead of burning bridges. America is tired of surface-level relationships that fade like temporary tattoos. They want something carved into stone, something ancient, something controlled, something respectful, something powerful without shouting, something intimate without losing dignity. They want Stoicism with heart. Don't let anyone fool you. Stoicism is more romantic than chaos could ever dream of being, because chaos burns bright but not long. Stoicism glows long but not weak. A man who controls his emotions can control a relationship. A woman who controls her impulses can preserve one. This discipline creates trust. Trust creates safety. Safety creates vulnerability. Vulnerability creates intimacy, and intimacy without self-loss becomes love in its highest form. And the twist most don't understand is this. You can desire someone fully with your soul, with your chemistry, with that quiet pull between male and female that every human knows instinctively without being disrespectful, without being explicit, without crossing into cheap lust. There is a difference between sacred tension and reckless explicitness. Sacred tension is what keeps a woman awake thinking. Reckless explicitness is what gets a video flagged and ignored. We aim only for emotional and symbolic intimacy, the kind that makes listeners lean in, the kind that builds narrative tension without needing graphic detail. The kind where a soft touch on the wrist or a gentle pause after a sentence holds more electricity than 1,000 wild descriptions. Because sometimes holding back is the loudest storytelling trick there is. That is suspense. That is desire filtered through stoic calm. Every great relationship moment is built in what is not said and not rushed. The moment before the first kiss is stronger than the kiss itself. The pause before a confession carries more tremor than the confession. The stillness before a breakup contains more heartbreak than the goodbye. Stoicism shines in those still moments. The moments most don't survive without panicking. And this speech, this voice you're hearing now, it carries one mission: to make you feel that storms don't kill love. Weakness during storms does. That silence doesn't break relationships. Misunderstood silence does. That intimacy doesn't kill identity. Uncontrolled intimacy does. That masculinity is not toxic. Broken masculinity is. That femininity is not confusing. Undisciplined femininity is. Stoicism teaches you to repair the cracks without removing the pillars. The pillars of self-worth, self-control, emotional discipline, silent strength, meaningful touch, intentional connection, and the refusal to lose yourself to someone who has not earned the keys to your mind. You can sit next to someone you are drawn to, next to the warmth you secretly crave, and still think clearly. You can crave closeness without pleading for ownership. You can admire beauty without kneeling to it. You can love deeply without losing your compass. That is mastery. When you master yourself first, relationships stop being traps and start being choices. You stop asking, "Does she love me?" and start asking, "Am I loving wisely?" You stop asking, "Will he stay?" and start asking, "Am I giving him a reason built on strength, not need?" You stop asking love to complete you, because the Stoic already completed himself long before love arrived. And this is where the story grows tense, because self-completion makes you powerful but frightening to those who want control. When you are whole, players get nervous, manipulators lose leverage, desperation dies, suspense grows. Attraction sharpens, respect forms, and love, real love, the lasting kind, quietly begins to circle you like a planet that finally found a star worth orbiting. That's what Americans want to witness: a transformation story, a calm revolution, a love philosophy that doesn't weaken men and doesn't trap women. Stoicism gives that framework. Let me tell you something most people never admit out loud. Intimacy is natural. Touch is natural, attraction is natural. The difference between chaos and mastery is not the presence of desire, but the governor placed on it. The cultured restraint, the calm control, the steady hand, the quiet heartbeat, the discipline that says, "I can feel this without destroying myself." That is what makes a man desirable today. That is what makes a woman unforgettable today. Because both sexes are tired of cheap connections, reckless impulses, noise, filled arguments, emotional addiction, fake confidence, and the growing epidemic of needing love to validate existence. The Stoic does not need validation. The Stoic gives presence. The Stoic gives respect. The Stoic gives intentional touch rather than impulsive grabbing. The Stoic offers calm affection rather than emotional chaos. The Stoic holds silence without venom, holds distance without cruelty, holds desire without stupidity, holds love without begging, holds goodbye without revenge, holds yearning without losing himself inside the yearning. And this is why Stoic relationship content is trending heavily on video platforms right now, because it provides something the culture is starving for: emotional self-ownership, quiet confidence, restrained power, masculine calm, feminine depth, and narrative tension that pulls the viewer forward rather than spilling everything at the first moment. People crave the unsolved riddle. They crave the emotional build-up. They crave the feeling that something strong is speaking to them, something ancient and grounded. Something like a man who doesn't rush a woman because he doesn't fear losing her. Something like a woman who doesn't collapse under affection because she fears losing herself more. Something like two hearts that grow close like slow sunrise rather than flashing fireworks. And now, if you're still listening, your mind is asking what this means in real moments. In real relationships, let me paint it plainly, the Stoic man doesn't ask for loyalty. He acts in ways that make disloyalty look foolish. The Stoic woman doesn't demand attention. She carries a presence that makes ignoring her feel like a loss. The Stoic man can touch a woman's hand, let the moment linger with emotional warmth and tension, without turning it into desperation. The Stoic woman can hold his gaze longer than comfortable, let that invisible quiet spark exist without needing to speak or grab for emotional dependence. Both carry the calm maturity that builds suspense, the intentional pause, the meaningful silence, the charged stillness that says, something deep is happening slowly here. America loves intensity, but it respects controlled intensity more. It's the difference between yelling and speaking with weight, the difference between grabbing and touching with meaning, the difference between desperation and suspense. You see, viral content doesn't come from explicitness. Viral content comes from emotional tension, relatability, mystery, self, growth, calm voice authority, storytelling gravity, simple language, and strong identity arcs. And your script has all those seeds. The trick is delivering them cleanly so the algorithm sees emotional strength, not explicit scandal. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Let's dig deeper. The ancient Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus weren't teaching people to avoid connection. They were teaching them to avoid emotional slavery through connection. They taught that you can love a woman, love a man, love someone fully, without needing them to rescue your identity. They taught emotional independence, not emotional numbness. They taught self-mastery, not self-denial. They taught silence as a tool, not silence as punishment. And in relationships, silence is misunderstood constantly. A boy goes silent and she thinks he's losing interest. A Stoic man goes silent and she begins to think he's processing instead of panicking. A girl goes silent and he thinks she's playing games. A Stoic woman goes silent and he senses depth rather than manipulation. Silence is only dangerous when it's rooted in ego or avoidance. Silence is powerful when it's rooted in self-control and reflection. And that is what makes a Stoic story compelling, because the silence builds curiosity instead of resentment. When you watch a movie, the thrill isn't in seeing everything, it's in wondering what happens next. And in relationships, the thrill isn't in revealing all emotion at once. It's in revealing character first, emotion slowly, and value consistently. That slow reveal is what keeps audiences watching. It keeps women thinking. It keeps men curious. It keeps viewers from clicking away. Because suspense isn't just for thrillers. Suspense is for emotional storytelling too, especially the kind where male and female attraction meet philosophical self-discipline. You don't need graphic scenes to show intimacy. You need the moment before intimacy, the emotional compression, the calm restraint, the slow build, the quiet, the tension, the meaning. A hand touch, a pause, a quiet breath, eye contact that says more than speech ever could. The internal storm that's narrated calmly, not loudly. That is the real strength Stoicism contributes to love, and this is what the American audience respects deeply. They don't want lectures. They want stories of control, stories of dignity, stories that teach them how not to break themselves on the rocks of desire. The modern man is taught to chase. Stoicism teaches him to stand still and let what is worthy approach. The modern woman is taught to test. Stoicism teaches her to hold herself stable so tests don't become habits. The modern culture thinks love should be wild. Stoicism knows love should be wise first, passionate second, deep always, reckless never. That philosophy creates both mystery and respect. Many relationships start in touch and end in noise. Stoic relationships start in value, grow into intentional touch, and avoid noise because both partners learn not to demand the other to heal what only self-work can fix. Imagine the difference in small moments. Instead of texts that scream insecurity, a Stoic text pauses without panic. Instead of arguments that explode, a Stoic listens before reacting. Instead of touch that rushes to claim, Stoic touch lingers softly to understand. Instead of intimacy that grabs at fullness, Stoic intimacy grows gradually like trust. Both male and female are present, but self-owned. Connected but not collapsing, drawn close in moment but not drowning long-term, and here lies the quieter truth. You only suffer in love when you give someone the job of validating you instead of sharing you. Stoicism removes that burden from your partner. When your partner no longer carries the weight of completing you, the relationship breathes again. Desire returns. Suspense returns. Attraction returns. Respect grows and suffering shrinks. Because the strongest union is not two halves making a whole. It's two wholes choosing unity without losing their shape. That's the model that's timeless. That's the one that lasts. And that is the one Americans want to hear about right now, not noisy influencers, not cheap romance, not explicit shock, but calm masculine and feminine tension mixed with ancient philosophy. That is emotional gold. The hook of transformation, the vow of self-ownership. The promise of emotional mastery, of boundaries respected, of desire acknowledged but controlled, of love offered without desperation, of silence used as presence not punishment, of intimacy shown through symbol not graphic detail, of the male wanting without collapsing, of the female appreciating without depending, of love that inspires watchers rather than corrupting them. And when a man and woman both carry Stoic calm, the relationship doesn't die in storms. It survives long enough to reach meaning. It survives craving without shattering. It survives silence without misreading it. It survives intimacy without being consumed by it. It survives arguments by listening before reacting. It survives distance by respecting identity instead of fearing abandonment. Most relationships don't end because love wasn't present. They end because identity wasn't. Stoicism protects identity so love can finally stay. And let me tell you this in the simplest possible way, because simple words spoken slowly land deeper. If you don't control your emotions, your partner has to, and that ruins love. But if you control them yourself, love remains light, attractive, suspenseful, dignified, intentional, and strong. That truth is what changes watchers. It's what spreads. It's what gets shared. It's what makes clips viral. It's what makes people stop mid-scroll. It's what makes a woman send it to a man send it to a woman, a viewer send it to a friend, because it speaks to everyone who has ever been pulled into connection and feared losing themselves in the process. And now the deeper currents. Stoicism teaches the art of emotional seasoning. You don't reveal yourself undercooked. You don't hide yourself forever. You temper yourself like steel. You care without clinging. You love without pleading. You want without grabbing. You touch without claiming ownership. You admire without begging reciprocity. You sit inside silence without venom. You stand inside desire without losing dignity. You protect yourself so love can finally stay without becoming a wound. And those principles build a love narrative that's deeply compelling for audiences. Suspense grows from control. Attraction grows from identity. Respect grows from boundaries. Intimacy grows from steady, intentional presence. Love grows from self-mastery rather than self-loss. And when love grows ancient roots again, she doesn't walk because you paused. He doesn't run because she stood calmly in presence. The fans don't click away because the mystery is unfolding slowly in calm paragraphs like these, rather than spilling in messy, disorganized noise. Because this is how a story stays watchable: calm voice, slow reveal, cell-phone desire, meaningful symbolic touch, simple words that carry ancient roots. That's what virality looks like in philosophical content today. Not shouting, not scandal, but calm authority mixed with story tension. That is what we're building here, and America is not a stranger to craving passion. It's a stranger to surviving passion without shattering. This is why Stoic relationship motivation is quietly one of the most influential genres right now among men and women in the USA who are tired of unstable cycles. They see Stoicism not as denial but as mastery, not as coldness but as magnetism, not as silence that breaks connection but silence that builds curiosity, not as intimacy that ruins identity but intimacy that respects identity. Most movies lose thrill once mystery is solved. A Stoic story stays thrilling because character and discipline are the plot, not just the climax. The climax is self-integration. The plot is emotional mastery. The tension is the slow reveal between male and female who want without collapsing. That is what keeps watchers watching. The moment before touch holds more narrative electricity than the explicitness of touch itself ever could. The steady pause carries more gravitas than reckless revelation. The calm boundary carries more passion than begging could ever hold. Stoicism is the governor that lets love burn strong without burning stupid. The unbroken man is not afraid to approach a woman. He is afraid to approach her without self-control. The unbroken woman is not afraid to receive attention. She is afraid to receive it without boundaries. Stoicism solves those wounds at the core. Before love enters the story, self-mastery enters it. That's transformation. That's virality. That's what Americans want to copy and share. And that is what the algorithm quietly pushes because it causes completion rates, emotional resonance, suspense, relatability, identity arcs, and self-growth clicks without violating content rules. We only hint symbolically at intimacy, never graphically. That is platform, safe emotional virality. The world thinks passion should explode. Stoics know passion should simmer so it doesn't annihilate character. The heart respects what stands firm. The body remembers what does not rush cheaply. The mind desires what is not desperate to claim it. That is how relationships stay compelling. That is how a narrative keeps its gravitational pull. And now the truth you must hear like slow thunder. If you build your worth first, silence becomes presence rather than punishment. If you hold desire calmly, a hand touch becomes symbol rather than need. If you master your ego, arguments become conversations rather than explosions. If you own your identity, love becomes a choice, not a trap. If you respect yourself, Someone else respecting you becomes inevitable, not begged for. That inevitability creates suspense, because she begins wondering what comes next instead of feeling suffocated by what already came. And he begins respecting mystery instead of feeling burdened by emotional imbalance. And this speech, spoken long and continuous, builds the same slow burn the philosophy advocates, calm paragraphs connected like thought, like breath, like discipline, like relationships that don't break on the rocks of desire. That's exactly why people don't click away. Because it's flowing like story, like tension, like identity, like restrained intimacy, like philosophy, all woven into one current. And now let me tell you how relationships break, but Stoics rebuild them successfully, because you must hear the cracks to appreciate the cure. Relationships break when someone treats desire like a lifeboat instead of a spice. Relationships break when silence is used as ego instead of reflection. Relationships break when touch is rushed instead of understood. Relationships break when validation is begged instead of character built. Relationships break when identity collapses inside attraction. Stoicism fortifies identity so attraction doesn't ruin you. Stoicism seasons desire so it doesn't destroy you. Stoicism holds silence without venom so curiosity replaces resentment. Stoicism offers meaningful symbolic intimacy rather than reckless explicit intimacy that poisons the platform and heart together. And those truths are not just old, they're urgent right now. That urgency creates virality, it creates shares, it creates saves, it creates completion, it creates respect, it creates curiosity, it creates emotional resonance. It creates algorithm love because it's solution, focused, identity, driven, suspense, stoned, simple, worded, and emotionally packed without crossing into explicitness. You're feeling intimacy symbolically, not graphically. That's what makes it platform, safe yet emotionally unforgettable. So listen closely as we ride the deeper current. The Stoic man speaks little, not because he has nothing to say, but because what he says must matter. The Stoic woman demands nothing loudly because her presence itself does the demanding calmly, and when both partners learn that, silence begins to speak politely again. Touch begins to mean something again. Eye contact carries suspense again. Love stops being a wound and starts being influence. Influence is what audiences share far more than explicitness. And now, the ancient turning point of this speech is tension. When you love stoically, the question isn't will they stay. It's were you ever ruled by fear enough to lose yourself? If the answer is no, the relationship may twist, may test, may storm, but it will not own you. And anything that doesn't own you cannot ruin you. That is the freedom Stoicism contributes to love. Freedom mixed with presence is more attractive than captivity mixed with affection. Affection seasoned by independence is remembered. Independence without affection is loneliness. Stoicism is not either slash or. Stoicism is balance, and that balance is what Americans are craving right now when they search for philosophy that actually works in relationships. Because modern romance fails at balance, Stoicism thrives in it. And now the deeper emotional metallurgy. If you want suspense between male and female, don't rush the reveal. Build character first. If you want loyalty without bargaining, act worthy of loyalty. If you want intimacy without collapse, keep identity intact. If you want silence to pull her closer instead of shove her away, hold silence peacefully, not angrily. If you want touch to be unforgettable without being reckless or flagged, make the touch symbolic and meaningful, not graphic. If you want love without wound, stop asking love to complete you, because that is the job of discipline. That job is Stoicism, and once Stoicism enters the structure, the lovers can finally enter the story without ruining it. And that is the transformation people feel when they finish content like this. They feel calmer, stronger, more dignified, more self-owned, more curious, more respectful, more magnetic, more emotional without breaking. That's the paradox that fuels virality: emotional but not chaotic, passionate but not explicit, deep but not difficult language, suspenseful but not manipulative, ancient but relevant, relationship, focused but self, mastery, centered. That is the formula that carries high viral potential and lower competition in the philosophical storytelling niche right now. And now we descend further into the human wiring. Male and female attraction is not the enemy. Lack of self-control is. A woman doesn't fear a man who wants intimacy. She fears a man who needs intimacy to feel whole. A man doesn't fear a woman who shows affection. He fears a woman who weaponizes affection because she lacks boundaries. Stoicism protects both from themselves first, so they don't break each other later. That is the unseen revolution that quietly transforms relationships, and this speech is the sound of that revolution. Calm, heavy, continuous, simple, deep suspense, building relationship, focused self, mastery rooted, partner respect, driven, touch point intimate only symbolically, spoken like soft gravity, not graphic noise. Because that is what platforms push and hearts remember. Now hear this plainly, because repetition gives weight, like hammer on steel. Desire is human, self-control makes it noble, silence is powerful, ego makes it poison, boundaries are not rejection. Weakness makes them walls, self-completion is not coldness, fear makes it loneliness. Meaningful, symbolic intimacy is not explicitness. Explicitness ruins platform reach. Stoic calm sustains reach, sustains hearts, sustains suspense. And that suspense, not scandal, is what keeps audiences watching until the end. And I'm telling you, if you ever want to transform your relationships and influence others with the same message, you don't chase lovers like halves. You build self first like whole. You don't avoid storms. You train calm for storms. You don't weaponize silence. You season silence peacefully. You don't explode your emotions. You narrate them unbroken. You don't rush intimacy. You honor it symbolically. You don't beg loyalty. You exhibit worthy character. You don't demand affection. You carry presence. You don't collapse under desire. You own desire. You don't make love a trap. You make love a choice. And choice, wrapped in calm strength, is more romantic than chaos ever could be, because chaos is loud chemistry. Stoicism is quiet wisdom. Chemistry pulls eyes for a moment. Wisdom holds eyes for a lifetime. And in this story, in this speech, in your life arc, wisdom must enter the structure first, so chemistry doesn't destroy you later. That is the answer to the question you didn't know you were searching for today, but felt you needed. And that's why you're still listening, because this is not fantasy. This is emotional strategy, and strategy seasoned with calm becomes dignity. Dignity seasoned with love becomes influence. Influence becomes share. Share becomes virality. That is the Stoic path. And now let me tell you the final twist, because every great Stoic speech carries a twist, spoken calmly, not shouted. The twist is this: most people think love should be dramatic to matter. Stoics know love should be stable first, dramatic only when narrative earned it. Most think silence ends relationships. Stoics know misunderstood silence does. Most think desire destroys clarity. Stoics know undisciplined desire does. Most think boundaries weaken intimacy. Stoics know weakness does. Most think emotional independence is loneliness. Stoics know fear is. Most think touch must be explicit to be intimate. Stoics know meaning is more intimate than explicitness. And meaning, wrapped in calm, is platform, safe emotional gold. When Americans hear this right now, they don't feel lectured. They feel understood. They feel the ancient philosophy that finally speaks the language of restraint, dignity, suspense, desire owned not denied, relationships honored not trapped, silence peaceful not poisoned, intimacy symbolic not graphic, identity intact, self-mastered, partner respected. That arc is timeless. That arc is emotional. That arc is viral. That arc is what makes or breaks relationships. That arc is Stoicism. And now, as you step into silence yourself, you realize silence didn't hurt your relationship. You did. Emotion didn't wound your love. Expectation did. Desire didn't blur your path. Lack of self-control did. Boundaries didn't kill intimacy. Ego did. And love never failed you. You asked love to rescue what only discipline could repair. Repair yourself first and watch love behave differently near you. Watch her lean in when you don't panic. Watch him respect mystery when you don't collapse. Watch viewers watch longer, because suspense was the philosophy itself. Stoicism with heart. Stoicism with suspense. Stoicism with relationship. Stoicism with symbolic intimacy. That is the flame that burns without smoke. That is the heart that feels without collapse. That is the touch that means without being reckless. That is the silence that speaks without venom. That is the relationship that heals instead of wounds. And that is the end of the before you, the beginning of the after you. The night silence finally spoke the truth that most fear, but few master and fewer speak. The truth that you can love fully without being ruled, and want deeply without shattering, and touch meaningfully without rushing fate, and stay silent without poisoning curiosity, and keep identity intact without fearing abandonment, and exhibit masculine calm without toxic noise, and receive feminine depth without emotional games, and build suspense not manipulation, and embody love not begging for love, and master yourself so love does not ruin you, so lovers do not own you, so content does not flag you, so viewers do not abandon you, so relationships stop being wounds and start being influence. That is Stoicism, the art of loving without losing, the art of wanting without collapsing, the art of touching meaningfully not explicitly. The philosophy America is rediscovering not because it's cold, but because the world grew too chaotic to survive love without anchors. Stoicism is the anchor, and an anchored story always spreads.